Is it time? Yeah, it's time. Welcome to the True Craft Podcast. I am your host, Chris Farman, and I'm joined by co-host, Katy Noel. This time around, we are all about one thing: killer conversations with close friends about the state of craft. Oh, it's going to be good. I hope to open the box on fresh topics while honoring the path that got us here. Let's do it. Welcome. Is this thing on?
It's on.
It's on?
Oh, it's on, Chris.
Were you saying welcome to us or to your audience? To both.
Both. I was just saying welcome to the next episode of the True Craft Podcast. I am your host, Chris Farman. I'm joined by Katy Noel, and our guest today is the one and the only Joel McClosky from Four Saints Brewing Company in Asheboro, North Carolina. Welcome, Joel.
How's it going? Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
So, Joel, yeah, you joined us a couple times in the earlier seasons of the podcast. I really enjoy the conversation with you. We will reference which show you were on so people can hear about your story, because this time around, we're not talking about how the brewery was built. This time we're talking about the people who built the brewery.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, we're getting into what they believe. We're getting into their stories. We're getting into that sort of thing, because at the end of the day, 99% of the breweries were all built the same way. And I went back and listened to a bunch of episodes from the first couple seasons, and it was the same.
Yeah.
Air filler.
We get that. Yeah, we get that a lot when people come in and they want to hear a brewery. They want to do a brewery tour. And over the past 2 or 3 years, the interest in brewery tours has, at least for us, has plummeted. And I was curious about it because we've been talking about the experiential marketing and what's something that we can only do that nobody else in our town can do, since we're the only brewery. A brewery tour is an example. But what we heard from people was, well, I went on a bunch of brewery tours and they all pretty much were the same story.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you're not far off from that.
Yeah, so we're just trying to we don't need to fill air, right? We don't need to fill airtime. So we just want to get to the meat and potatoes of the topic. And today's topic is super critical, in my opinion, because we're talking about, and what inspired me to bring this topic up is my friend Julie Rhodes. You know Julie. I know Julie. Yeah. For all you on the YouTube, Joel just pointed at something that Julie is part of her training program and part of her sales coaching program. And you can see it. You can't really read it, but you can see it. It's behind there. And you and I meet often, Joel. I see that. It's been back there forever for you. So, but Julie wrote an article for porchdrinking.com, which asked, I don't think it asked anything. It was a statement. I have it pulled up on this other machine here. And it says, buckle up. Craft beer is now a mature market, right? Everyone hang on. Craft beer is a mature market. And I want to start our conversation today on what your thoughts about that are, because yes, craft's been around forever, since at least the early 90s, but it's had these ebbs and flows. In the last decade and a half has been strong. So can we really say it's a mature market?
There's the question. Just bam, there it is. I think it is. Being here in North Carolina, we opened our doors in 2015, and from 2010 up through 2015, the number of breweries that were opening, even in 2015 through 2018, the number of breweries that were opening, it just seemed like there was one every month. We heard about another one. That has slowed significantly, on top of breweries closing and getting to a point where it wasn't just, here's the hot new thing, do it. It's now the market's kind of evening itself out. The breweries that have terrific spaces, have terrific service, have terrific beers, those are ones that are that are still there, but in some ways are hanging on, because when you have an area like ours, like the Triad, where we've got breweries in Winston, breweries in um, Greensboro, us, and in the surrounding areas. When there's a lot of little breweries, the larger breweries start to take notice. And we had Steel Hands put in a production facility a couple of years ago, and they got into market. They have got their footing. They have way more resources than we do, and they're really starting to take hold. And we're seeing that in some of the larger breweries out in the Triangle too, that are starting to outpace what somebody like I can do.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, it's so you've got slowing down. You've got breweries closing, and we're seeing. I mean, you're probably seeing way more than I am. Of almost every day, there's somebody that is closing up shop, and some of these breweries have only been in business for 12 years, and not cideries as well. But then you have these breweries that are buying each other out, and it's not the ABs that are buying out all the small breweries. It's now these regional breweries that are buying the smaller breweries, either for the footprint or for the name or for the recipes. So I mean, just that in and of itself indicates that we're reaching this place of it's not the hot to trot anymore.
Right.
And I think the hot to trot is in the alcohol world is changing over to RTDs and distilling, just following the trends, following what Gen Z and the younger millennials are looking for. It's definitely a changing piece, and you just can't say blank brewing company and expect that you're going to be around in 5 years. There's so much more that's going to go into it.
So I define a mature market, and I'm ripping this off Wikipedia and a couple other sites that I've read of what a mature market is it's certainly the lack of growth, and second of all, the lack of innovation.
Mm-hmm.
The lack of growth, it's certainly not growing the way it grew from 2012 to 2019 or 2017, right? That was insane growth. Honestly, we're getting a number of startup calls. Where a brewery starting up in the Mid-Atlantic, in the DC, Baltimore area, in the Boston area. There are, it's far and few between, and we don't actually service startups. We don't know. We haven't done that since 2013, 2014. So we don't offer those services. However, I'm just floored whenever someone's like, we're starting up.
So with the calls that you've been getting in your experience, what are the ballpark? What are the average sizes of those breweries?
It's funny you ask that, because I always ask the question when I'm on the call with them, knowing we can't help them, what is your budget? What have you planned for this? And the sizes are across the board, right? They're typically 10 barrel, 7 barrel, maybe 15 barrel, but within that range, certainly under 20 barrels. Like I haven't heard someone say, hey, I'm opening a 30 barrel facility. Not a chance, right? So let's say the average size is 10 barrel brew house, maybe a food program, maybe even a tap room. Someone's really ballsing out and going just tap room only in 2023. We've heard 5 million all the way down to, I know, I just saw here. So I told that person we weren't living on the same planet, and good luck. But the average is somewhere, I'd say 1.5 to 2 million investing into it. Because I'm just so curious in 2023, what's real estate costing? What's capital? What's working capital? Where are these people coming from? Because I've seen it from so many different angles. So I would say the average is a 10 barrel system that is opening up these days, and it's a $1.7 million investment to get it open.
Mostly suburban areas.
We have like a one.
What's that? A farm one?
Yeah.
I could see it. So from that experiential aspect, somebody wanting to go down to the farm and have a beer. I could see, the shakeout here inviting in the the boomer generation and Gen X, as they're getting up to the hopefully levels of being able to have some income to do something with, is this fun thing of being able to say they brewery, but that brewery not that in a place like Greensboro, Winston-Salem, Raleigh, Charlotte, 10-barrel system, you're doing all tap room. You're not doing any distribution.
Right.
You're just doing the thing. And I think there's potential for growth if somebody comes in and goes, we are going to be this neighborhood's brewery. Much like, there's, very much like the European idea of like every neighborhood had their own brewery. And it wasn't, I'm going to start a brewery so that I can get statewide and have 400 taps across the state and have my logo on a jersey somewhere and be on the news. And it's just, this is that small town mom and pop business. I think there's still room for that in certain areas, but it's recognizing that. And I think that is a harder thing to think about, because that's focused purely on surviving by profit rather than surviving by getting bigger. And there's so many people think that the bigger you get, and we hear it all the time. People are like, oh man, you guys, I saw your tap handle here. You guys must be doing great. Like, we're doing okay.
Right.
Like, we're still paying our bills, but we have a lot of internal work to do.
Right.
I think there's a potential for growth, but if people are focused on opening that 10-barrel system and being that's it, and that's what they want to do for the next 20 years, because 2015 it was, you opened up, you had your tap room, and you were in distribution. You were out there because that was the name of the game, and people are starting to pull back and recognize that a mile deep is better than a mile wide.
Yeah.
So I think there's potential. I'm not seeing it. I personally am not seeing it around this area here.
Yeah.
But there's a place called Lesser Known Brewing in Winston-Salem. So if he's ever in Winston, if you come to the North Carolina Brewers Guild Conference, if you check out a place called Lesser Known, it is a tiny little tap room. They've got 5 or 6 beers on, and they are absolutely tearing it up because it is stellar product. It is stellar beer, and that's what people are going there for. They're not going there for music, trivia, that kind of stuff. They're going there because the beer has made a name for itself.
Sure.
And that's what people are going to have to focus on.
Yeah. I'm wondering where we set this growth bar to really define if we're in a mature market or not, because I guess we get to define it as whatever we want. The second half of the equation is around the innovation, lack of innovation. We've seen so much innovation in the beer industry. We've seen so many of the founding fathers like rolling in their graves over what has taken off over the last decade, right? We've also seen, I believe, a return to clear ambers and pilsners and lagers and West Coast IPA, and we're almost experiencing a return there, which is confusing some of the breweries that opened up, I'd say 2 years after you. So 17 to 19, that's all what most people, opened up on, were the new innovative styles. So my question to you is do you feel like what style cycle would you say we're in currently? And what was your favorite style cycle that we experienced over the past decade?
I think I think, and I don't know what the names are for all the style cycle. I'll have to do some research and be learned on that.
I made up style cycle.
Yeah. Oh, you did? Oh, well, that's good.
Wait, Joel, you mean you've never heard of a style cycle before?
I saw that in the message yesterday, in the email yesterday, and I'm like, style cycle? How the hell do I not know about this? What is this? I know sales cycle. I know this, but style cycle, I think it is. I do think there is a return to tradition. I think it's, when thinking about this newest wave of of breweries opening up. So 2010 to 2018.
Mm-hmm.
That's 13 years ago. And 13 years ago, I was 32 years old. And 32 years old, I had craft beer, but it just wasn't a thing. I had no idea about it. So it was this age of exploration. And what is, and I remember the first IPA I had, and I thought it tasted awful. It was like it was a brown dog. Doesn't matter. It's from Smutty Nose Brewing, I much. And things, and at that point, you had people where the hobby was homebrewing, where anything went. You wanted to put smoked cheese in your beer, go for it. Let's see what happens. You're just going to make your friends drink it. So some of these, as people were discovering these traditional styles, what is an amber? What is a Hefeweizen? What is just a regular that's not a Guinness? This age of exploration led to what else could it be? And that happened at the homebrewing era. That's when people were like, what if we did this?
Right.
And from there is where you had that garage conversation of what if we took this and actually made it a small business, because that was, everybody wanted to do it. Everybody wanted to make that happen. And so that some of that, in that those homebrewers were used to doing funky and crazy things, brought that into the brewery with them. And some of them got crazier and funkier as with different types of equipment and access to different ingredients and more education. But it got to the point, and I think it got to the point where you had the consumer just rolling their eyes and going, why would you do that? I remember there was I won't name the brewery, if people out there may know, but they put whole fried chickens into their boil to say that they did a fried chicken beer.
Yeah.
And at that point, like you say that to a brewer like Andrew, who's my business partner, and he just goes, they obviously don't care about their equipment. And what's going to happen to that beer is, what happens if a piece of chicken fat gets stuck somewhere?
Yeah.
Right.
Gosh.
But it was right. It was being right, but it was being done to be done. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right.
And there were those people that were like,
innovation.
I've got to try it. I've got to try it. And then you had most people going, I just want a beer. Like, I just want to have something that reminds me of the first beer I had when I was out in the field party, or once I turned 21 and visited a big city and visited a real brewery. Like for me, I remember when that happened. It was in Baltimore, Maryland, at the Baltimore Brewing Company, which no longer exists. We sat down and they had a Rauch beer, and I like, let me give that a try. And I'd never had a smoked beer before in my life, and I absolutely fell in love because I'd never tasted anything like that before. And there was this, again, traditional to let's just do what we can. I think we are getting back to, I just want something. I want something that's not going to cost me. Don't tell me I'm going to have to spend $35 on a 4-pack.
Right.
Don't tell me that this has 75 different little Debbie cakes in it, and it's so sweet that it's going to give me heartburn for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
There's so many things that, as that generation, my generation, has grown older, just back to tradition. And these new investors, as they're coming in, it's not a matter of let's take a chance and let's go wild and let's just see what happens. They want something to go into market that is going to sell, not might sell, but is going to sell.
Right.
And at that point, I think where you get innovation from is really going back to the reintroduction into some of the traditional styles that nobody's doing. You don't see a Belgian single anywhere around here. And it's such a simple table beer that, could have wide appeal. It's reintroducing things like English milds, that obviously that style has been around for so long. There is a reason. But I think that's where innovation comes in, where these breweries go, what are the things that have been around for so long? how can we do them, and not even necessarily put our twist on them, but let's do ours. And we have things like apple pie. You can go to a bake shop, and every bake shop's got an apple pie, and guess what? They sell that apple pie every single day. And so I think breweries are kind of getting back to that place of what are the things that people want. Let's have some fun. Let's not be all 16 of our taps.
Right.
And so the consumer is driving that 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. When I began working in the industry, it was certainly clear beer and just delicious stuff, right? Just delicious stuff. Then I think the next style cycle was what I call the mean beer. So your maple bacon, your Rice Krispie, your sweet potato, your any really food combination where you were throwing food and making it taste like a food. That was the next style cycle. Then we had the hazies. The hazies lasted a very long time, and they're still around.
Still around.
And I would add in,
I would add in the imperial cycle, where everything was imperial, everything. And do you have a stout? Yeah. Is it an imperial stout? No, I don't want it. Where's that? Where's the quadruple IPA that you have on tap? And it's,
I want 4 sips and a buzz, kind of. Yeah, imperial. Yeah. And so I feel like we are, and I'm not sure what drove that. Right? Was that there are just so many breweries around that there could only be so many West Coast IPAs, and one person did it, and that was the draw to a brewery to have your key lime pie beer.
I think like a lot of, and this is a young industry. Especially if you take this second boom, because I agree. Places like that started it back in the '90s. Dogfish Head and Red Hook and all those ones that, we're currently young industry. It's people getting into this and not really knowing what to do next. So it was ear to the ground, and what is that thing that is going to catch some buzz? And I think for me, one of a perfect example of that is Brute IPA.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So Brute IPA hit, and everybody was doing one. And we brewed it. We did too. It's very rare for us to jump on onto a trend. We're slow to move on it. We had things hit the right time, and we brewed one. People drank it, and that was the end of it. And so I think people hear things, they give it a shot because somebody else is doing it, and the ones that are going to stick around, like Hazy's. What Hazy did from a style was, Hazy said, "You don't like IPAs? That's okay. You can still drink an IPA because this doesn't have the bitterness. It doesn't have the amount of alpha acids that West Coast has that you can't stand, but it still has all the other characteristics of the citrus and the aroma and the ability to say you're drinking an IPA." And that, again, there were so many consumers out there that were like, I can drink now. I can say I like IPAs, because in the craft world, and it's still to this day, we have people that come in on a regular basis and they look at our menu and they go, "I don't like IPAs. I'm sorry." It's like, it's okay. Nobody goes into a bakery and go, "Oh, I don't like it. Hi, I'm sorry." Like,
yeah,
right. But for some reason, the craft beer world is connected to the IPA so hard. That anything you can do to make it more accessible to the average consumer, the better it is. And people want to like the IPA, to see in this population, in this group, in this tribe. And I think that's why Hazy's have stuck around for so long. But even then,
the IPA thing, like, how long has the IPA kind of craze been going on?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. That's a really good question.
Like, in the first time or like a long, long time.
I think at least from this second inception, because you had breweries like Russian River who had Pliny the Elder, and it just was everywhere. And you had Alchemist, and so you had these beers that you couldn't get that were IPAs that people were loving, and that's kind of what drove that industry. So there was this kind of mythical figure, and people were trying to gain access to it locally. I remember getting we got a, this is a long time ago, but there was Red Hook had an IPA that had that, so it's always been around, but the craze of it, I'm not really sure when. It's always been there, but Pliny the Elder, Alchemist were
Dogfish Head had the 120 minute. Is that what I call them?
They still have 120 minute. It's hard to find. And we can't actually get it here in North Carolina because the ABV is above 15.
The ABV.
So
what's Dogfish Head's main? Is it 60 minute then? 60 minute IPA?
60, yeah. So they've got 60 minute, and that's their IPA. Then they have 90 minute, and that's their Imperial. And then they have the 120 minute, which.
Okay.
And so the other IPA that really, I think the other IPA that really drove things was Hop Slam.
Mm-hmm.
Hop Slam was the other one that really, as a double IPA using honey. Again, there's that innovation aspect. They took a double IPA. What can we add to it? They added honey. People can argue that it makes it sweeter. It doesn't make it sweeter, but they did a damn fine job marketing it, restricting access to the point that when it came, people were at the store waiting in line to buy that beer. Oh. And now, and we did a clone of it years ago, but it's from an innovation standpoint, it was what's this one little change? They made that one little change. People went nuts for it, and it grew that particular market segment.
Yep.
But innovation wise, I think now it is. There are still people that want give me a slushy IPA sour, whatever. There's still people that want the chocolate cake double imperial, triple imperial stout. Like there's still that market, but now it's just people are looking just to get back to normal. And I think part of that I think comes from what happened with COVID and the way, COVID gets invoked everywhere, but things got blown up. And when it came time for people to spend money on something, they wanted to spend money on something that they recognized, they knew they could count on, they knew where that dollar was going. And I think that it kind of brought people back, like, this is what I enjoyed, because I could have 2 or 3. I'm not gonna have to worry about X, Y, or Z. I'm not gonna have to worry about if I open that can that I'm gonna hate it. I may not be my favorite amber, but I'm still gonna be able to enjoy it and not be gobsmacked by how excessive it is. And so I do think that kind of has brought things back around, and people got tired of paying the prices for it. But getting back to simple, recognizable, accessible beers of what people want.
There's probably something to be said around like the fatigue people as a whole experienced during COVID for all the newness and all of the like decision fatigue and emotional fatigue and just looking for comfort. Like I don't need another area of my life to have something crazy going on.
Right. Comfort. That's a great way of putting it. It's just give me something I know. Give me something that I can count on. And innovation asks people to take a chance. And so I think right now I don't know how many people really are ready to just take a chance on certain things. And when I say that, I'm not talking about the ends of the bell curve. I'm not talking about the extremists.
Right.
I'm talking about that 60 to 70% of the general population. I don't think they're there for it. I mean, we've seen just around here, there's certain styles that were always big to-dos and big deals and locally hyped beers that just aren't anymore. But those same breweries are killing it with their blonde ale. I'm not talking about us. They're killing it with their just here's just our porter. Like that's all it is. It's just the porter. But it's been around forever, and that's where that's what people are banking on right now.
So, Joel, what would be your advice to a brewery who's stuck in this innovation dilemma where they don't think they're innovating enough, but they have a solid core beer program, they have a solid tap room, distribution is kind of waning? What would be your advice there as far as someone just chasing the next cool thing?
And Julie will probably, if Julie watches this, she's probably going to love it. And I don't say that for her edification, but it comes down to marketing. It comes down to if your product's solid, and you want to change somebody's focus, then you have to redirect their focus. And so if you've got a solid beer program, if you've got 3 to 4 to 5 styles that are just they're profitable, you can bang them out. They fill needs on a general bar lineup. Very rarely does a bar lineup look for a super heavy pastry stout to put onto a line, but they are going to be looking for an IPA. They are going to be looking for an amber. They are going to be looking for something sweet, something fruity. So if you've got those 3 to 5 beers that you can just knock out, they're always there. They can be put on, and that's where you got to direct people's focus. And because at that point you're saying, for lack of a better term, we're easy. We're going to give you a beer that is accessible. People are going to enjoy. You can count on it. Kick it. We're going to have it again for you. Have fun with some innovation. Have fun with giving your brewers a chance to experiment and do things that they haven't done before. Give things to just your tap room to be able to say, this is only available here. And if you love it, awesome. And tell everybody. If you hate it, that's all right, because it's only here. We're giving it a shot. But you've got to point them in the direction of where you want them to look. And so I wouldn't worry about trying to catch the new wave every time there's a new wave.
Yeah.
Because genuinely, I think we're at a low tide on that. Those waves are not coming in on a regular basis. And so bring the boogie board in, sit down on the beach, and just do your thing and do it well.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more, especially in today's environment. You can get the innovation really is for the tap room, right? If the innovation is for the tap room, and really in today's environment, we've got to look at brew house size, we've got to look at cellar size to see if you're going to be oversubscribed on that innovation or undersubscribed on that innovation. Someone that's sitting with a 7-barrel system and 7-barrel tanks or 15-barrel tanks is going to have more flexibility than somebody that's far more upsized in brewing and innovation. So there's so many questions to answer from a capitalistic standpoint, and you're coming at it from a consumer and really connect with the brand standpoint, that if your brand was built on solid, clear beer, and that's who you really are, and you've been chasing these various beers and have had mid-level success with it, then probably go back to what you're really good at.
There's a brewery here in North Carolina that did something that I think surprised everybody. But they were focused on German lagers, and that was their thing. That was their foundation. That's what they were built on. Awards, international awards. I mean, it was their thing. And they just recently put out an IPA, which, you know, and I haven't had it yet, so I can't speak the quality of it, even if I don't know, even if I could, I don't know if I would. But this is what they're known for. It's interesting that they tried that. So is it, let's just try to create some quick excitement so that people come in and go, oh, they have an IPA. Now let me try their copper ale. Or are they genuinely looking at expanding into the other side of brewing, so to speak? And is that gonna, how is that gonna affect things? Is it, but
Right.
um,
It feels like there's a pocket of innovation that's healthy to live within, and you can like overdo it or underdo it.
Absolutely.
Feels like probably just with everything else, it's just a balance and learning where you fit into your market best and then kind of living in that space.
And
Yeah.
Joel and I think would agree that pocket used to be a vast landscape. I mean, a massive tundra of innovation. Am I using the right words? I'm trying to get like really smart here, Katie.
Is that our episode title? A tundra of innovation.
There used to be, and now it's a pocket of innovation. So you really need to fit in your pocket, right? You got to, the target has gone from a tundra to a pocket, even though those two measurement styles don't even.
Yeah,
they don't even.
I wouldn't call it a tundra. I would because a tundra is a frozen desert.
Okay, what would you call it?
I would call it a rainforest, because the amount of growth, the amount of everything, the amount of life that is there, just in a small square mile of it, is expansive. But I agree. It used to, back in 2015, 2016, 2017, the most popular question when I was out making sales and talking to people and introducing, and once I got into that, built those relationships and they were now repeat customers. The number one question from those customers were, what's new and what's rare?
Yep.
It was, and we were already local. So those three questions: what's new, what's rare, what's local. And so that would be, we were coming out, we were having a new beer hit market once a week. Every week there was a new beer because it had to be. Yep. And that was, hey, we got our black IPA this week. Hey, we've got the Belgian triple this week. Hey, so every week had to be something new. And the rareness of it was, well, who around me has it? Because if they have it, I don't want it, because it needs to be different. And what has changed now is our Hefeweizen is easily our best seller, and we have a number of accounts that is a half barrel order every week. They are interested in nothing else, though we try. We really work at it, but we've become part of their program because their customers have come to depend that beer. They depend on that beer. They don't care if we come out with a basil peppermint mocha stout. Their customers aren't asking for that anymore. And when you, again, thinking about my generation moving into this, I wouldn't order a basil mint mocha stout. 2010, I would have to give it a shot and see. It's not me anymore. Right. And when we look at the generation behind me, they're not looking at that either. Because it's why? And that's the biggest question is I see from the younger generation as they come into our tap room, they ask the question about the beer. Well, why? Why is that with that? And it feels questioning, but sometimes if you can't answer that, if you don't have a real reason for it, then maybe you shouldn't have done it in the first place.
Right. Joe, as always, you're a wealth of knowledge, man. You've been doing this for a while now. You've been doing it really, really well. I always enjoy the conversation. Where can the listeners learn more about Four Saints?
www.foursaintsbrewing.com. We have our website. I didn't go full radio voice there. I could have, but our website, foursaintsbrewing.com, is going to be the best place to start. story of the breweries there. You can find out about all the beers that we've done. So if you want to see some of the innovative beers that we have done in the past that maybe we don't have on tap or probably maybe never do again, they're there. Our events are there. It also has links to our social media. We're consistent on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We don't do the artist formerly known as Twitter. So those are our three main things. And you can sign up for the email newsletter, email update on newsletter, email update as well there. But that's the best place to start. And if you're in the Piedmont Triad, if you're in our area, come down and check out our tap room. We're open Tuesdays through Sundays. We do have events going on, food trucks, 16 beers on tap, non-alcoholic beers, which I never thought in a million years. We don't do it. We actually bring in athletic. But
Cool.
if you told me in 2015 that I was going to have non-alcoholic beers in my tap room, I would have told you were crazy. Not anymore. They sell pretty well. But yeah, come and check us out. We would love it. And Asheboro is a wonderful place to visit. Has the world's largest natural habitat zoo. So if you have, if you like seeing animals, you got family, the zoo is a great place to be, and we are a great place to reminisce about that after you have walked 2 miles, 3 miles, seeing animals, and have a beer.
So funny, man. What a great exit. What a great outro. That was huge. That was awesome. Yeah, I appreciate everything today, Joel, and we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Sounds good.
Thanks,
Thank you
Joel.
for having me. Appreciate everything you guys do and keeping our industry sane.
Thanks, buddy.
Talk soon.
See ya.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the True Craft Podcast. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast player. And if you are just dying to know what Chris and I look like, you can head over to YouTube for a video recording of the show. Links to cool information about our guests and other fun facts can be found in the show notes. This podcast is sponsored by Small Batch Standard, the premier financial agency built to serve the craft brewing industry. We help craft breweries grow profits through outsourced accounting, tax compliance, and growth consulting. Visit sbstandard.com today to learn more and request a discovery call.